Safety Minister Marco Mendicino is here to talk about all of that. Hi, Minister. Good to see you and good to have you here in studio.
Thank you for having me.
I wanted to start off by asking about something the Prime Minister said today in reference to these objects. He said, obviously, there is some sort of pattern here. Is it probable, in your view, that like with the first balloon, China is behind these other three objects?
That's precisely what we're assessing. So is there a pattern? What exactly are they? And I want to begin by assuring Canadians that we are going to use every tool in our arsenal to understand exactly those questions, which is why we've deployed the RCMP, the Canadian Armed Forces, as well as the Coast Guard to conduct recovery operations. They're experts in this area. They're going to collect that information. They're going to do forensic analysis and give us their best advice. We're going to continue to work very closely with NORAD, who was deployed this past weekend. This is a binational force, and we're going to do whatever it takes to protect Canadian airspace and sovereignty.
And I do have some questions about, you mentioned the RCMP and other groups involved in what the recovery and analysis involves. But on the question of probability of what or who is behind it, you said we're going to determine if there is a pattern. The Prime Minister said today, obviously there is some sort of pattern. Which is it?
Well, I think we have to be assessing the best available intelligence, and that is a process that is ongoing. So, the fact is that over the last number of days, we have seen a number of objects manifest in Canadian and American airspace. The point that I want to convey to you is that, one, we're taking swift and decisive action to protect our sovereignty, and that is why we scrambled NORAD jets. That's why objects have been taken down. And two, in our recovery, the process of understanding exactly what these objects were, what the threats were, and how best to continue to be vigilant about this is one that is ongoing, but is being undertaken with a lot of alacrity and our full effort.
Of the two objects that were shot down over Canada, have any of their parts or aspects to them, has any of it been recovered yet?
Well, I don't want to preempt the process, and I would point out a couple of things. First, with regards to the object that was taken down over Yukon airspace or Canadian airspace in Yukon, that it's in a stretch of land that is difficult to access, remote, and even dangerous, and that is one of the reasons why we sent in the experts from CAF and from the RCMP. And then the other object, which was taken out over Lake Huron, is being recovered by the Coast Guard.
But has any of it been, has either of them been recovered in any way yet?
So we're endeavoring to get that information available as quickly as we can. As we speak, those recovery operations are being undertaken, and when we can share those details, we will. But in the meantime,
so you don't know if any of it is in the Canadian government's hands at this point?
It's real time, Vassy.
I take that point. I understand, but that's why I'm asking. In real time,
as soon as we are in a position to share more information about the recovery operations, we will. But in the meantime, we're going to use every tool in our arsenal to protect Canadian airspace through the binational force of NORAD, a force that has been in place since the Cold War. And every other agency within the public safety and national security apparatus to protect Canadians.
I'm asking about the recovery process because I think on behalf of Canadians, it's important to know if there will be one, right? Like if there's actually something to analyze, because ultimately it circles back to my first question, which is what or who is behind this? I think that determination is a pretty important one when it comes to national security, right?
You're right. Those are core questions, but I just don't want to get out ahead of our skis on this. I realize that there's a great curiosity about exactly what can be recovered and what these objects were, but I would discourage over speculation at this point without allowing the forces and the RCMP and the Coast Guard, who are being coordinated under Public Safety Canada, to do their job, something that they're carrying out methodically with a lot of care and attention so that we get the best possible intelligence and analysis of the government.
Has your government asked the Chinese government if they are behind the three objects?
Well, I would begin by saying that first, we obviously know these objects were airborne. They did not carry any payload. And third, they did violate our airspace and American airspace, which is why we acted swiftly and decisively. And as we determine what the origins of these objects are, regardless of where they came from, we're always going to be vigilant about using whatever tools are necessary to protect our airspace and our sovereignty. So we're eyes wide open about threats, and indeed, as the Minister of Public Safety, it's important for people to know that those threats, as they evolve, We're using our tools, and we're always prepared to modernize those tools, but to do so in a way that is transparent and protect Canadian sovereignty and security.
Respectfully, Minister, that doesn't answer the question, though, right? My question is whether or not your government has asked the Chinese government if they're behind these three. And I ask it not out of nowhere, out of the fact that the first one, your government and the U.S. government has ascertained that big balloon, the giant one the size of 3 school buses, was Chinese surveillance. So it would seem logical to me that the follow-up would be to the Chinese government, are you behind these latest 3? Has that been asked?
We're looking at the origins of all of these objects. We're looking to ascertain exactly how they got here and what their capabilities were. And as we have a better understanding of that and the recovery processes which are being undertaken right now, I can assure you that we'll always respond and denounce any hostile activities, regardless of what the state was that engineered them.
NORAD and John Kirby with the White House today said that basically because it took a while to detect that first balloon, NORAD adjusted its procedures and therefore have found these ultimately these other objects. The assumption then is that, or not the assumption rather, what NORAD said was that they have existed in iterations in the past as well. Is it your government's view that these objects, again, or balloons of some type, whatever they are, have existed in some iteration before the past 2 weeks?
Look, as I've said before, I think that's precisely what we're digging into right now through the recovery operations, and hopefully by acquiring some of the debris, taking a good look at it, and then putting the intelligence lens on it and getting the best advice to other colleagues in government, including DND and CAF, who are also on site and are looking at this material, we can come up with the best conclusion to the question that you posed. But in the meantime, I do think you're right to highlight that NORAD, which Canada and the United States have been part of now for the better part of 60 years out of the Cold War, has been deployed in a way that should reassure Canadians that we are able to respond to any threat in our airspace. And we will never hesitate to continue to deploy them swiftly and decisively.
Why can the U.S. tell us that there is a big spy balloon program that existed and there have been objects in the past that NORAD wasn't able to detect, but clearly there existed, and your government can't say the same thing?
Well, it's not that we're not able to. It's that we want to make sure that we get the answers to those questions correctly.
So you don't know?
And we undertake, and well, as I said, we are in the midst of conducting recovery operations in real time. So I understand
but what does recovery have to do with the existence of, like, they haven't been all recovered in the U.S., and the U.S. has been able to say this stuff existed before?
Well, you don't know. Nobody knows exactly what is on the ground in Yukon or in the waters of Lake Huron. And so we don't want to presuppose the answers to those questions. And it's only after we conduct the recovery, look at the evidence, analyze it, put an intelligence lens on it, that we will come to firm assessments. Vassy, you're asking the right questions. I'm just saying, before we get out too ahead of ourselves, that we should allow the armed forces, the RCMP and the Coast Guard, to do their job so that we can continue to ensure that our response is calibrated to these threats.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to presuppose the job they're doing. I'm just sitting here listening every day, like Canadians are, to the information that the U.S. is able to share. And it is noticeable that it's far more than what your government is sharing with us at this moment. But I take it.
We want to be as transparent and as upfront as we possibly can be. And look, we'll continue to provide briefings as we can and as the recovery operations are being completed.
I just have one quick question for you, and this is, I think, under your purview, and that is around, okay, we know for sure where the first balloon came from. Both your government and the U.S. government has confirmed it's Chinese surveillance. The U.S. has blacklisted 6 entities in the People's Republic of China for supporting the PRC's military modernization efforts, and that's specifically related to aerospace, including the balloons. Will your government follow suit?
Like I said, we'll never hesitate to condemn the hostile activities regardless of where they originate from. We've done so in the past and we'll continue to going forward. But right now, what's important is that we continue to remain agile in our response, that we are moving forward with our recovery operations, that we work closely with our provincial and territorial partners, and work closely with some of the Indigenous communities that have been impacted, and provide information to Canadians in a timely way, and that is our commitment.
And I appreciate all of that, but again, the question is whether or not you're willing to take that specific action against China because of their actions with that first balloon. You're not going there yet? Or at all?
I would just say we've never hesitated to condemn any hostile activities or foreign interference when it is materialized. But right now, the emphasis has to be on conducting these recovery operations
so
that we can
Pardon the interruption, but can't you do both?
So that we can come to the appropriate conclusions, and we won't hesitate to condemn where appropriate.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I'm out of time. Thanks for your time, Minister. Appreciate
Thank you, Vassy.